Hello and welcome to Morris Park, and welcome to part 2 of Convergent Evolution. Tonight we're going to cover a little different group. Last week I covered Euphorbia, which is the Euphorbia family, Cactusi, it was the cactus family, and we did a little bit of the Apocynaceae, which is the dogbane family, or otherwise the milkweed family as I like to call it. Tonight we're going to do a video on the Asparagaceae, Crassulaceae, and I'm going to give a little insight into a couple of other ones that are even kind of named one for the other, and just kind of show you a little difference of one. I don't have the other, but many of you know one of them. So let's go check out the rest of my video, part 2 of Convergent Evolution. Now, before I get started, I wanted to show something. One of my viewers is asking about, Anna over there in Paris, France, wanted to know the difference between female and male Euphorbia flowers. I actually finally had some male ones bloom along with this female plant here, and I'll show you the difference. The difference of Euphorbias is, this is a female. And females, as you see, have this little trilobed structure, this stigma sticking out of the center of the cyme there, or the flower, and just has those 3 little lobed stigmas there, one for each ovary, one for each seed. And this is basically a female Euphorbia. Now let's go see a male. Now I just showed you a female Euphorbia horrida powder blue, and this is Euphorbia opunctoides. And if I can get this thing to focus, these are male flowers. And as you see, or maybe not, the little anthers, the stamens that are sticking out of the flower, and each one of those little stamens has a little tiny head of pollen on it. And there'll be several of them in there. I think totally there's a total of 5 flowers, 5 male flowers within Euphorbia flowers, or the cymes, or cyathea. As you see, you got all those little stamens, opposed to the female stigma sticking out. Now this plant here is actually both. It is male and female. The female parts are not sticking up right at the moment. It's just the males. But anyhow, I just wanted to show this real quick to clear up Anna's question. I can't get too close. It doesn't seem to want to... Oh, there we go. Get a little bit of focus on that. You can see the pollen actually on the top. Anyhow, I just wanted to show you this. And then we're going to move on to Convergent Evolution with the Asparagaceae. Now, this is an Agave Titanota. The agave, or what's known as actually as the Agaveaceae, which is just a group in a much larger family, the Asparagaceae. Now this is kind of funny. A lot of you are saying, well, does that mean it's related to asparagus? Yes, it is. I know it's kind of strange. You don't really think of asparagus being related to something like this. Most of us that know what asparagus plants look like, they're kind of fuzzy looking and very soft looking and all. And then they put up the edible shoots. But if you look at these agaves when they bloom, the big shoot they put up does have some resemblance to that. And that's pretty much what joins it into the Asparagaceae, is the flowers and seed, and that's how they put these plants together. I'll show you a couple more agaves, and then we'll move on. This is one of the better known agaves. This is the Agave Americana. This is actually Americana variegata, and you can see the variegation on it. Now, the normal plants are native to our southwest here in the United States, and these are used as landscape plants quite often in warm areas. These are very popular, and even overseas they're very popular. This plant gets massive. I've seen these plants throw up a flower spike that's probably almost 10 feet tall or taller. And the leaves, I've seen these leaves get 5 to 6 feet long. That's on the ones that are actually planted outdoors in warm areas. When I lived in both California and Arizona, I saw huge examples of these. And actually, if left unchecked, they will actually put out many offsets, and they will actually fill an area pretty fast. So one has to be a little bit conscientious of this. And the way I keep this one smaller is I'm going to keep it in this pot a long time. I may change the soil out now and then, but I'm going to keep it in a tight pot so it doesn't get too big and out of hand for me. Now this is Agave Lophantha Quadricolor. It's one of my other agaves. I've had to keep some of these variegated ones under the trees so they won't burn. This is an Agave Ivory Curls. It's a cultivar. Both these variegated. And yes, both these of the Asparagus, of course, as all the agaves are. Now, there's a couple other plants that look very similar to this, and they are in the same family, but we don't think about them as being necessarily related. And of course, many people lump these into, it's a cactus. I even had tried a drink the other day, put out by a company, and the flavor of it was called Agave Cactus Flavor. So a little bit of a misnomer there. These are not cactus in any way. These are of the Asparagaceae, not the Cactaceae, the cactus family. These are of the Asparagus family, believe it or not. And in a minute, I'm going to show you some relatives of these that, while similar, are also quite different. The other thing I want to tell you about these is these take on a pattern, more or less a rosette pattern. They grow these leaves in a whorl, and that's so if they get really dry, they can actually fold these leaves in and kind of cover that center growth piece there, that center grow point, the main stem, or the mirror stem, if you will. They can cover that up, and the leaves on the outside can even dry up and cover it until better times come and it gets some moisture, and then it'll grow right back out. You could cut all the leaves off this agave, and then later on they would just grow right back out. It would take a little bit of time, but they would grow out. I had to do it with this one, and that's why you don't see a whole lot of leaves on each one, because they got sunburnt so bad. I put it out last summer, and the sun was just horrible to it. It got really badly burnt, and so this spring I had to trim it up quite a bit and get rid of a lot of those dead leaves. You can kind of see that down in there. But it's doing fine now. Let's go check out some other members. Now this is also an agave, and this one came out of Arizona originally. I packed up one of our military members many years ago, and he had a whole bunch of these. And he said he just started with one. He collected one out of Arizona, and then he had like 20 of them. And while we were working, he said, hey, if you want one, you can just have one, because he had so many of them. I've actually given a couple away myself because it is very prolific. Now the same thing happened with this one. I put it out a little bit too soon this spring, just kind of threw it out there, and it burned a bunch of the leaves, so I had to cut a bunch of leaves off. Now sitting next to it is its African cousin. Now these are the aloes. Aloes are also of the Asparagaceae, and you can see they have similar form basically. They have the teeth on the edges of the leaves, like an agave. They just don't have the long, sharp point that agaves have. But these are related. But the agaves are from the Americas. Aloes are Old World. Aloes are from Africa. They are from Arabian Peninsula. They grow Madagascar, Canary Islands. They're many of the Old World places. They are not native to the United States at all. Now this particular aloe is a hybrid. It's called Aloe T-Rex. Now I don't know the parentage of this, but I bought it last year. Kind of like the short, stout look of it. Had a very agave kind of look. And you can see it's kind of stress color. It's got that kind of reddish color to it, and that's from the sun and all. But it's withstood the sun real well. One behind it is the old standby that everybody knows, the aloe vera or Aloe barbadensis. This plant has been used in, oh my goodness, for all the time. It's well known for its healing capabilities and how well the sap works on just about everything, from burns to cuts to scrapes. They even have it now bottled up where you can take it if you have stomach ailments and so forth. It helps relieve stomach pain. A very, very good plant. And by the way, just a little note, the aloe vera is not the only one that can be used for medical reasons. Your other agaves, aloes, as long as they have a thick, fat leaf, if you break one of those leaves off, it will have that sap on the inside, and they all work very well. I've tried them. They work well. That's one of the advantages of having quite a few aloes, is you have many plants you can pick from to help you out with those burns and scrapes and stuff like that. When I got my eye burnt by the monodenium sap, my eyelid more than my eye, I actually used some of this aloe, and it actually helped very well. And it's funny because like 2 weeks later, I was out mowing and hadn't been out mowing for a while because it had been so hot and our grass just was dead. But we've gotten some rain. You can see the grass is coming back. So we've had to mow a little bit. And my eyelids got actually sunburnt. And it felt about the same as when it got burnt by the monodenium. And I took one of the leaves of this and split it open, took a little bit of that sap and just rubbed it around my eyelids, not in my eye, but on my eyelids. And believe me, it was almost immediate relief. So these aloes have definitely got a plus to them, as well as looking really nice and really cool plants that can help you out with burns and scrapes and cuts and all that good stuff. Another aloe. I'm not sure of the species, but I have quite a few different aloes. There's one. Little dish of aloe hybrids here. I believe that's Firecracker, Purple People Eater, the Christmas Sleigh. And I don't know this one. My friend and co-worker, Mr. Matt Talley, gave me this one some time back. I know it's one of these hybrids. It's a really cool little aloe. It's grown quite a bit. But just some more of the aloes I have. And this one is Aloe Snowstorm. Aloe Snowstorm was given to me by Anna of Cactus Caffeine. And it's done well, and it's bloomed recently. It's almost done. They're growing well, and now there's 3 of them. You can see there by the offsets. And doing very well. Now here's a few more of my aloes, and some of their relatives that are also in the Asparagus-y. Now, some of them have their stress colors on. This is Haworthia chloracantha. And no, it's not dying, it's just stress colors because it's been so hot out here in the greenhouse. Aloe Coral Fire, it's not got its stress colors on now because I've got it kind of in the shade. More than most of these that are out front. Some more Haworthias. These Haworthias are related to aloes and part of the Asparagus-y. And a Gasteria. Gasteria also a member of this family. This is an aloe hybrid, and I'm not sure exactly which one it is. It's grows very tall, kind of ranges out. You can see it's been kind of climbing for the sun. And a couple of Echeverias growing in with it that just kind of got in there by themselves. The pieces just dropped in. But a pretty neat one. And this is a Gasteria Lily Patana. It's kind of a little miniature. Always a reliable bloomer. Very nice plant to have. I recommend this one for anybody. It's a good beginner plant and everything. Blooms quite well every spring without fail. And another member of the Asparagus-y. These are some more of Haworthias and an Astroloba, aloe, some other Haworthias. I've got to clean up a few flower stems that have been blooming here. This one's been blooming like crazy up above. And there's just flower stems everywhere. So I'm going to have to clean these up. But anyhow, this is a Gaster Aloe Flow. This is a hybrid of the two. And yes, you can hybridize these aloes and Haworthias and their relatives. They seem to cross fairly easy. I've never had a problem finding any hybrids of these. There seems to be quite a few of them. But yeah, part of the Asparagaceae, believe it or not. Another little one up here. I forget which one this is, but it's one of the hybrids. It's a little shriveled up right now because it's been so hot up at this level in the greenhouse that they've had a little bit of a rough time. But I'm watering them back. It's starting to cool off a little bit now, and so they should be coming out of it. Now the next family I'm going to show you here is the Crassulaceae. Crassulaceae has quite a few members, and it's pretty much just a succulent family. I have not seen any herbaceous or leafy plants such as the agaves have with the Asparagaceae. Asparagus being pretty much just an herbaceous plant more than a succulent. But this is a Echeveria, and I don't know the exact type. You get really awesome flowers. Make these little cool flower stalks. And most of your crassulas have kind of a star-shaped flowers. Now these are a little more closed on the Echeverias, but they usually have a little star-shaped flowers. And that'll be for like your jade plants and sedums and such. You'll see these little star-shaped flowers. Now, of course, this is the one everybody knows, and this is a jade plant. Just one of a couple I have. I have one outside right now, too, that's kind of golden colored from the sun. But they are also part of Crassulaceae, but they're a little different. They don't form the rosettes like the other members do. They grow as more of a tree type. And I see these in Southern California. Most of you out there surely know that when these are planted in the ground, they become a very thick-trunked, fat shrub. And usually will bloom around December. They're kind of a winter bloomer. But this is one of the most popular crassulas that there is out there. And this is called Crassula Ovada. It used to be called Crassula Argentine. I don't know exactly why it was called that, because it's from nowhere near Argentina. But anyhow, this is just another one of the Crassulaceae. And as I say, it doesn't kind of form those rosettes. Now, the leaves kind of grow opposite from each other, but they don't tend to form the rosettes like a lot of the members do. And one of the curious things about the Crassulaceae is how easy these things grow from leaves. You can just pop a leaf off at the stem, like that. You just set it down here in the soil, and that's going to take root, and it'll actually form a little plantlet before you know it. Let's see some others. Now this little bowl full of succulents here, most, if not all, are members of the Crassulaceae. And you can see some of the similar patterns. This one looking much like the jade, growing more of a shrub-like, an Echeveria. This is one of the miniature jades. It's kind of a cultivar. I'm not sure which Crassula this is. I've seen it around for a long time. I don't have the name. I'm not really up on my Crassulas as far as names. These are other members of the Crassulaceae, as well as Adrenicus Maculatus. This Adrenicus Maculatus is also part of that. Look at the roots on this thing. This thing is really advantageous as far as forming roots. So if any part of this plant were to fall off, it would definitely just start growing. The leaves are the same as like all the others. You can break these leaves off and they will form a new plant. And that's how they survive. They almost do better than just seeding. There's a variegated jade back here. See? Pretty cool. This is an Adrenicus Maculatus. I've had this plant a very long time. It belonged to my stepdad, actually. We went to California Cactus Center one day when we all lived out there. And he really liked this plant, and I've kept it for him. He's passed away now. But I've kept it for him. And it's done actually very well. You can tell it's very old. Needs probably a little bit of water. It's had quite a few leaves dry in that heat. But yes, another member of the Crassulaceae. These also will break off, you can break off leaves and start these also. Very easy to grow. I've never had a problem with this plant. This is another little Crassula hybrid. I forget the name. It was a free succulent I got with one of my purchases. Pretty cool. But it has that kind of opposite leaf deal. It's almost like a rosette, but it grows in these tall stems here. Very easy to grow. I don't really have to pay it much attention. An Aloe Titanota. Now some I'm going to show you too And these aloes here are not part of the Crassulaceae. But I'm going to show you another one out of the Asparagusaceae that I forgot to show you. Now this is a Sansevieria Cylindrica. And it is also part of the Asparagusaceae. All your Sansevierias, and they grow quite, this one grows quite tall, are part of that. So just remember your Sansevierias, your agaves, and your aloes are all part of the asparagus family. I had almost kind of forgot some of my Sansevieria. This is a walking Sansevieria, and the particular species, I'm not sure, but the reason they call it a walking Sansevieria, you can see this habit back here, as it just kind of marches along, and then it puts out these roots and it stands on them almost. You can see these roots here. They tend to stand up on them, which that's why they call them a walking Sansevieria, because they just walk on out of there. They grow more from these long rhizomes, above ground rhizomes, than they actually do from basal offsets. I've had this one for many years. It's a little shriveled right now because it's been so hot in here. I got this one 38 years ago when I used to work at Live Oak Gardens in Arcadia, California. And it was one of these plants that was just shriveled up in a corner. I asked my boss about it, what to do with it and what to price it. And she said, just get it out of here and take it home. It looks horrible. And it's always had kind of a shrivelly look to it. And it needs a replanting pretty bad now. And you can take all these rhizomes here and just cut them off where a root is. And they'll grow right away. No problem. Now this is another member of the Crassulaceae. I think this is Crassula Elegance. It grows out in this nice cascading way here out of this pot. It's a sideways pot. Also it has a tendency to lose a lot of leaves when you touch it like I just did. But these leaves, every one of them, will turn into a plant. No doubt. Clancoes. I think this is a tomentosa, I think. Don't quote me on that. Now the shriveled up looking ones, I thought they'd do better. I took cuttings of these early in the spring, and that was a Clancoe chocolate soldier. It just didn't seem to do as well as the others. But these grow quite easily, and some of you know, in fact probably all of you know, because you probably got one free before, is these Mother of Thousands. Oh boy. I got one of these free from California Cactus Center many years ago, decades ago, and yes, I still have them. Several types. This one is another type. Grows as a vine. It'll grow clear to the top of the greenhouse, just catching a hook on wherever it can go. And they propagate, as we all know, from those little plantlets that are on the ends. And those things fall off very easily. I'm not going to tempt them. Fall off very easily and restart. Not a problem. These things will grow from almost any part of the plant. They're so prolific. There's another variety. So I have 3 varieties of these. Tubifolia, I think this is. And they get the flower, they get the little plantlets right on the ends there. I've had these forever. And you can see this one here has become pretty advantageous. This just dropped into this cactus bowl here on its own and grew all by itself. I didn't put that there or anything. It got there all by itself. So these crassulas are pretty advantageous. Now I want to show you some of my other not agaves, but Sansevierias that are part of the Asparagusaceae. Now a lot of these Sansevierias have been transferred over to Dracaena, which is also of the Asparagusaceae. This is a newer one I got. I forget the name on this one. It's a cultivar. Nice variegated type. When they start growing, they seem to look like this, and then they turn out like this. Pretty cool. Then the Trifasciata. There's both variegated and non-variegated. The reason for that is I had this freeze all the way to the soil level one year. It killed most of them. Only a few roots were actually left alive. And some of the leaf parts were still good. And so I just restarted from leaf parts. But the thing about these is, these variegated ones, if you try to start them from a leaf, they'll come out green just like this. I don't know the exact reason why, but they all come out green. Now if you start the variegated one from a root stock, from one of the root pieces, a division, it'll come out variegated. Sansevieria Moonshine back there underneath the ficus tree. There's a Golden Hanai. This is the Sansevieria Bonsail Starfish. You can see it needs replanting pretty bad. It's about to bust its way out of that pot. And that's something about these Sansevierias. They will crack a pot to try to make their way out. And I'm going to have to get on this one pretty soon, or I'm going to probably lose that pot. You can see it's really squeezing its way out of there, mounding the soil even, trying to get out. And a Sansevieria Fernwood Mikado. And it almost has like the walking tendency there. This is a hybrid, and I'm not sure the lineage of this, but it's been very easy to grow, a real cool one. And yes, of the Asparagus. Now, before I end this video, I'm going to show you a plant that looks like another plant that we have here in the United States, but it's from Madagascar. Now, this plant here is not related to any of the previous plants I showed you. Many people would mistake this for a cactus. Look at the thorns. Now, it's usually called a false ocotillo. Now, many of you in the United States know what an ocotillo is. These plants are native to the Southwest, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. And they grow these huge, long, whip-like branches, and are usually topped in red flowers on top. Now, this plant here looks just almost like it. I mean, the branches look very, very similar. The leaves look very similar. It's just when they flower, they're very different. And where they come from. The ocotillo is a Fulcuria splendens, which is part of the Fulcuriaceae, and is not related to this plant in any way. But here we go with convergence again. It's something that works. And on the island of Madagascar, this plant occurs. Now, this is an Aloe procera. You see these long whip-like branches covered in thorns, just like an ocotillo. Ocotillo is of the Fulcuriaceae. This is of the Dideriaceae. So we have two totally different plant families. I wish I had an ocotillo to show you, but you can look this up online, Google this, if you have never seen one, and you'll see what I mean by this. And then go ahead and Google this plant, Aloe from Madagascar, and you'll see how really close they look. It's just that these Aloe seem to get a bit taller than the Fulcurias do. Anyhow, I just wanted to show you these examples of convergence and plants that look the same but are not the same. And all these plants are not cactus. The Cactaceae, cactus. Cactus, not a cactus. And not cactus. So, the only thing I have to say in conclusion of this, and like I've said before, well, all all cacti of the Cactaceae are succulents. Not all succulents are cactus. Whether they have spines or look like a cactus or not, that's not the defining feature of the cacti. As I said before, the defining feature of the cacti is the areoles. Definitely these fuzzy, felt, spine-bearing, fruit-bearing, flower-bearing structures, and also the branch-bearing structures of cacti. So anyhow, I hope you all learned something from this. And I know it's been a learning experience for me for many decades, finding out what's what. And when I was a kid, I didn't know any of this, and I thought that pretty much they were all cactus too. Anyhow, this is Clyde Morris from Morris Park. I'm glad you could join me for these videos. I hope they were useful. Have a good evening. Take care. And good night.